I don't want to describe the effect as just the bread and wine turning to the body and blood of Christ, but because the whole point is that the miracle that happens when we are consuming, when our lives are united to the Lord. Okay, Scripture reference, especially a lot of the 6th chapter of John. So this is very interesting because the Lord teaches very clearly, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. And in fact, when his words were shocking because they said, that's disgusting, then all these people that were following him stopped following him. They turned away. They said, we just can't listen to this kind of a thing. This saying is hard, and who can hear it? So they walked no more with him. Now, that the effects of Holy Communion are not simply physical, because then it wouldn't matter if you received worthily or unworthily, but spiritual. He said, it's the flesh and blood, the flesh profiteth nothing. It is the Spirit that quickeneth. Also, another good Scripture reference is, what is it? 1st or 2nd Corinthians.
First.
Where St. Paul says, he's describing the problems that they're having with these gatherings and liturgies in the early church. And then he says, that he who eats and drinks unworthily eats and drinks damnation to himself, not discerning the body and blood of the Lord. 1 Corinthians 11. Okay. So this is where we're giving a warning, don't take communion unworthily. And although we kind of talked about this in another class, but it might have been a Wednesday class. How do you know if you're unworthy and should not be receiving Holy Communion at a particular liturgy? What would be a clear indication I should not be receiving Holy Communion?
You're not at peace with your neighbor.
Okay, so that means you have conflict with your neighbor. Okay, so these are things that would make an unworthy communion. It's not going to save you; it's going to hurt you. Conflict with one's neighbor. Okay, and the Lord said in the Gospel, if you go to the temple to offer your gift, and there you remember that your brother has something against you, set down your gift. Don't offer it yet. Be reconciled to your brother, and then God you made it. And then go offer your gift. Then your gift can be acceptable to God. And it's interesting, it doesn't say that you remember that you have something against your brother. It says, if you remember that he has something against you. So regardless of one's own guilt, or I was just saying what he needed to hear, we still have to make efforts we still have to humble ourselves and reconcile and make peace. Now, what if it's not possible? Okay, it's not possible. Okay, you tried. You tried. You did. You tried to do what the Lord said. If the other person won't accept it. But as long as you've tried, to the fullest extent, then you can go on and take communion. You can still. I mean, there are some people that I knew a man who, he had a troubled family situation. When he got cancer and was just about to die, he went and he made peace with every single enemy he'd ever had and everybody in his family that he had been estranged from. He made peace with them all except for one family member. And she said, I will never forgive you. And it was not possible. And he begged and he humbled himself and he wept and she said, I will never. He didn't succeed with that one. Okay, so that wasn't his fault. So we have to resolve our conflicts. We can't be having a grudge. You can't go to communion if you have a grudge or hard feelings towards somebody. And if they did you really, really, really wrong, you at least have to be like willing to. I mean, you mentioned it in the confession, but you have to at least be willing to try to forgive them as best you can, and to say a prayer for them. If you can't do those two things, then you should not receive Holy Communion. But sometimes, I mean, somebody raped you, left you physically disabled the rest of your life, and killed your mother in front of your own eyes. Well, you may not think they're the most wonderful person and just, and be filled with love for them. But as long as you're willing to try to forgive them and to say a prayer for them, then you're at least on the way. And with a priest's blessing, you could receive Holy Communion. But if you say, I will never forgive, okay, then you're not ready for Holy Communion. Because the Lord did all of this for us when we weren't ready and we didn't deserve it. And besides, it's like a chain around your neck. It's like a ball and chain. You yourself aren't free.